welcome to another YouGrind podcast. I have here
Cameron Caves.
Caves.
Correct.
Caves.
Correct.
Did you ever get bullied over that?
Over the last name, not that in particular. Lots of other stuff, but not the name.
The last name.
No.
I mean, I met somebody with the last name of Ho, so Cave isn't
Yeah,
too
I
bad.
knew a couple of those too.
Yeah. Tell me about yourself.
Well, your painting over here is askew, so that's
Yeah, it's
about
very
myself.
off center. Yes.
It's like it's at like a 30-degree angle.
I try to fix it. It goes back to
That's
that, and so I just let it be.
So what if you have like the little metal like stand thing that it hangs off of? If you move, like pick it up and then move it over a little bit where the nail is that goes into the wall, if it's like off center, then it will probably balance out. What was your question?
Does it bother you a lot? Do you want to fix
I wouldn't
it?
say bother a lot, but it is something that I noticed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here in my world, that's okay to have.
Okay, so from your perspective, the Jedi are evil. I see.
Yes.
I see.
Whatever the fuck that means. Anyway, so take me back to your childhood, your upbringing. Give me all that.
You said you didn't want to cry, so I'm not going to do that.
Motherfucker.
So.
Because I brought up your childhood?
Pretty much, yeah.
Your childhood was that terrible that you'll make me cry?
It might. It might.
Fuck, now I have to hear it. I have to hear it now.
Jeez. Okay. So, I'm trying to decide if I should go for the more complicated version or the simpler version. But the simple version is I was raised by a single mother. She worked for the carnival. And she worked for the carnival, all right?
Making this shit up.
I don't know what's so funny. She worked for the carnival, all right?
Respect.
Okay, and then she'd had a lot of drug and alcohol issues for a long time, and so when I was 5 years old, she died on Mother's Day. That's a true fact for you. So the Mother's Day when I was 5 years old, it was like, oh, your mom died, by the way. And so then I got adopted by my aunt, who pretty much raised me, and then I have a bunch of siblings, but like it's really complicated. But so then I was adopted by my aunt, and so whenever I say like my mom, it's usually it's my aunt. But my biological mother, died when I was 5 years old. So
On Mother's Day.
Yeah, on Mother's Day. So that was really, really cool.
You were blessed with a mother, but then she passed away on Mother's Day 5 years after.
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, well, you know. You asked, man.
Guaranteed in life.
You
Death
asked.
and taxes.
Yeah.
Death and taxes. Welcome to fucking America.
I think other countries have taxes.
Welcome to being a human being.
Yeah. All right. What's another question? You got another question for me?
Was your aunt your mother's sister?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Seven siblings.
Okay.
In that family.
Nice.
And then
most of them were girls.
All of them except one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll tell you a funny story actually. So my maternal grandmother and my maternal grandfather always wanted to have a boy. And then they had 6 daughters in a row. And they were like, all right, well, I guess this isn't going to happen. So my grandfather got a vasectomy. And then my grandma got pregnant. And they're like, what happened?
That child is not his!
They're like, what happened? And so then they went to the doctor and they were like, oh, they didn't snip the right thing. They cut through scar tissue that he had in his groin from when he was shot in Korea. So then they had a boy. And that was the last.
This is a true story.
This is a true story. No, it's a true story.
It's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, shout out to him.
Right.
Yeah. And then my dad is one of 8 also. So big family on that side too.
No pressure. You're going to have 10.
No, that's probably not going to happen. You know. I'd have to get started like pretty soon, and that's just not.
Well, you have the easy job.
Fair enough.
You have the easy job.
I'll just be Al Pacino.
Exactly.
Having kids when I'm 83.
Exactly.
Man, that's crazy. You know, do you know Charles Dance? Do you know the actor Charles Dance?
For this story, I'll fake it.
Game of Thrones.
Yes, he was Tywin Lannister on Game of Thrones. He was also in Alien 3. He was the antagonist in Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But anyways, His father was born in 1874. And then he had kids when he was like older also. So between his daughter and his father is like 138 years. That's pretty crazy, huh?
Of a gap?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, I don't want to live that long.
Yeah, I feel like I'd get bored. 138 years.
It's painful. It's fucking painful.
I don't know. I wouldn't care about that. I would just be really bored. You know, it's like, what are you going to do at 137 that you didn't do at 136?
Right.
You gotta have fun stuff to do.
I mean, who the fuck knows what happens after we die? But at a point,
worms eat your eyes.
Sounds fucking
You go on the ground, and then the worms eat your eyes. Pretty much. And other bugs and insects and whatnot eat the rest of you. You know the difference between a bug and an insect? An insect has 6 legs. There you go. That's a fun fact. If it doesn't have 6 legs, it's not an insect. It's a bug.
Okay.
It's a true story.
We heard it here first.
Can you just cut that into like the more you know?
Yes.
Little thing?
Good editor, you guys got that? The more you know. If the creature doesn't have 6 foot, it's
I'll put another line boobs.
Yeah, some shit like that.
For sure.
I don't know.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today?
Do you believe in aliens?
Do I believe that they exist? Sure. I believe that aliens exist.
What if I'm one of them?
Is that why you wanted me on the podcast to figure out if you're an alien or not?
Yeah.
There's probably other ways to do that, you know.
But this is my way.
There was so when the Oscar shorts, you know, the Oscars were about to happen. A couple local theaters will do a thing where they screen all the Oscar-nominated shorts. And one of them was, I think, a Danish film, or it was some European film, and it was called I Am Not a Robot, and it was like this girl's doing her, she's trying to work on her laptop for like an exam, and she's in the library at her university, and that little test comes up, the CAPTCHA that's like, you know, click this thing if you're not a robot or whatever, and it doesn't work for her, and that's how she finds out she's a robot. So
that's what those short films about?
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty badass.
And so it's like, you know, click all the things, and she does it, and then it's like, error, try again. And then she's talking to her boyfriend on like FaceTime, and she's like, I want to ask you something, I want you to be honest. And he's like, okay. And she's like, am I a robot? And then he's looking at her, and you see him on the screen, he's like, I can't hear you, I'm going through a tunnel right now. It's pretty funny, pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I met you, you were talking to me about a documentary that you were working on.
Yes.
That intrigued me, and that's why I invited you over.
Okay, so to be clear, working on is maybe a strong phrase. I've only recorded, so my goal is to get 30 people. So far, I've only had 2. And so to say that I'm working on it maybe implies that I'm actively doing something more than I actually am. But basically, it's called Struggle Meal, and I want everybody so when you like are about to get paid like the next day or a couple days later, and you have like no food and you have no money, what is like that thing that you make when you need it to be reliable and good and like super cheap, and usually you have it, you know, you have all the stuff for it already at your house. That's your struggle meal. And so my thought was that I would go and follow people into their kitchens and then have them make their struggle meal, and then ask them a couple questions like, oh, when did you start making this? You know, that sort of thing. So far I only have 2. My thought is that if I get 30 people and edit each segment down to like 2 to 3 minutes, then that's like a feature length documentary. So far I only have 2. But my goal is to get 30 people, yeah.
30 is a lot.
It is, but I feel like it's manageable.
What if you do 10?
If I do 10, then that's not going to be a very long film, and I want it to be feature length.
Well, you should probably, you know, put some B-roll, put some pictures, maybe even go into deeper conversations.
No, because it's all about the food, and it's like a way to get like a slice of life type thing without actually doing a ton of preparation or actually doing a ton of stuff. You just, you know...
You just want their struggle meal? That's it? No, like...
Well, I'm asking them questions as they're doing it, and I'm like, when did you first make this? Did you learn this from, whoever? Did you learn this from your mom and all that stuff? Where do you usually get this stuff? And then I think the other thing, too, is that basically having the same premise between a bunch of different people, between 30 people, creates naturally a lot of comparison and contrast without me having to do a bunch of work or have a bunch of, segments of them just sitting down and answering the questions on camera. For me personally, when I watch a documentary that is just a person sitting down, talking to camera, answering questions, it feels really uncreative to me. I feel like there's usually another way to communicate it. And even in the Struggle Meal documentary, what I've shot so far, when I am asking them questions and stuff, they're doing other things. And I think this is good for two reasons. Number one, it's a lot more dynamic visually. It's a lot more interesting. And the other thing, too, is that the person is too busy doing something to really think about their answer and think about what they're saying. And there's a lot of documentaries that you can watch where you can tell the way this person is speaking and the way that they're answering is too formal. They don't really speak like this. They are like putting on this stilted, weird performance. And when you're just asking somebody something and they're cooking, they don't have a lot of time to process and be like, here's the answer that I want to give. They just are honest with you. And I think that makes a better interview. And so whenever I do an interview with somebody for this or for other projects, I typically try and have them be actually doing something, because then that way they're not thinking about the answer. They're just answering, right?
But there's something beautiful about a thoughtful, thought out answer as well. It might be robust, but when you have time to think about it, you're not so on edge. I think for your project it works, but just overall in general.
I think it can be, but I think also a lot of people just, if they're going to appear in a documentary or in something like that, they want to kind of manicure their appearance, and they want to think that they have control over how they're going to be portrayed, when the reality is they don't really have any control, over that. If you have a 2-hour documentary and you shot, let's say, like 12 hours, you're inherently going to have to cut some stuff and going to have to alter some stuff based on what each person is saying. Yeah. So I think that having a long thought out answer in general, I kind of don't want them to have that.
Okay. What would be your best advice to somebody who's doing their first documentary?
Their first documentary, some advice. First of all, I would say try and think about subjects you have access to from a third-party perspective. So, like, so I'm from the Sacramento area, so shout out to the 916. And there's a lot of Sacramento has more immigrants percentage-wise than any city in the U.S. other than New York. And so I knew a lot of people growing up who had moved to the U.S. from Afghanistan, or they had moved to the U.S. from Mexico, or they had moved from all these different countries. And I always found it really interesting as somebody who doesn't have that background. But they would just kind of, put it by the wayside. And I'm always like, that's an interesting story to a lot of people. And that's a story that, even though in our area is very common, probably a lot of people in the U.S. or in wider society don't really know that struggle, right? And the other thing, too, is what country do they come from? What was kind of their story? That could be something really, really interesting that you could tell. And then when these people would always be like, oh, I don't know what to do for my documentary. And I'm like, talk about your mom coming to the U.S. from Vietnam and all that stuff. And so I would say think about, what is something about you that a stranger on the street would find really interesting, right? So like I said, my mom worked at the carnival when I was young. I've always wanted to do a documentary about people who work at the carnival. What's something that you can do that you have access to that doesn't take a ton of effort that you could do pretty feasibly? Maybe you have a brother who's really into snakes or something, and then you could ask him about the snakes. Anybody who's making a film for the first time or starting out making their films, everybody in your movie is going to be like your neighbor, your friend, your mom, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Don't be ashamed of that or anything. And then the other thing, too, is you're going to be naturally more confident and more coherent talking to them than if it was just somebody that you're trying to get access to. So that would be my major advice would be think about something that somebody you don't know would still find interesting and make your documentary about that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm shooting my first doc tomorrow.
You're screening it?
I'm shooting it.
Oh, you're shooting it.
I'm recording it.
Got it. Yeah. What are you, what's going to be visually, what are you going to be filming?
An interview.
Okay, all right.
Magician doing some tricks. And then he's also an EMT, so I'll probably have some fun stories about him being an EMT. And then I'm going to have a skit, so a play.
Okay.
Be done about grief, and that'll be interesting. And lastly, we'll finish it off with my friend that's a comedian who's going to be joking about grief.
Okay. Cool.
That's for that section. It's going to be in 2 days. Then the next shooting will be on the 20th, and that's when you get a little bit more of in-depth stories with me and a few other people.
Cool.
So that's
cool.
That's the plan.
It sounds pretty legit.
Sounds basic. Sounds like it's the first of many. And I have a drone.
You have a drone?
I have a drone.
What are you going to use the drone for?
Bird eye, God eye, or whatever the...
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe some nice trees on there or something. I don't know, to spice it up. Whatever that may be.
Well, if it's about grief, you could see if there's like a cemetery you could...
Maybe.
Go over.
I don't think they'll appreciate that, but we could try.
Well, they're dead, so...
No, the
don't
people
really
running the grave.
It's fine. It'll be fine.
That's what they all say.
It'll probably be fine, asterisk, Yeah. Did you bring me here to talk about grief? Was that the idea?
No, I brought you here because I thought you were interesting and I wanted to hear your documentary. And you should stop trying to figure out why I brought you here because I have a fucking whole community behind you over there.
Wow, there's 600. You can't see it on camera. There's 600 people over here.
Yeah,
so that's
called
pretty
my
crazy.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So I talk to artists all the time. So, Yeah. Well, you say you're from Sacramento.
Yes,
I
am from.
my last guest to go to Sacramento and go ghost hunting with me.
Yeah.
So if you're already in Sacramento,
you
could tell us what spots to go to.
Well, okay, so
and host us.
Sure.
In Sacramento.
Absolutely. You could, sure. You could stay at my house. So in Sacramento, there's a big tourist spot called Old Sac, which is Old Sacramento. So it's the part of the city that was built in 1849. And since it was raised because obviously the Sacramento River floods a lot and the American River floods a lot, so they had to raise it. And if you go underneath, there's ghost tours that will take you literally like into basements and stuff. So if you're gonna go to like a ghost tour in Sacramento, that's the one that I would recommend. Would be the Old Sac ghost tour.
I'm not trying to be racist. But is there a lot of white people in Sacramento?
Like I said, it's a very diverse area. In the U.S., it's like in the top 5 percentile. There's no ethnic majority, so there's so like growing up, pretty much like everybody. I knew people of every kind of ethnicity. Is there a lot? I mean, I'm sure if you looked at like a map and population wise, I think white is like the biggest percentage, but it's still like under 40%. But there's a lot of other people too.
Do you consider San Francisco Bay Area?
Is that an argument that people have?
100%.
I don't understand how it could not be the Bay Area.
It's too fucking far away.
But it's on the bay. The Bay and Bay Area is the Bay.
You cannot get to...
See, I thought that I turned that off.
You cannot get to Sacramento on BART.
Right, Sacramento's not part of the Bay Area.
You just said.
No, I said San Francisco, which is what you said.
No,
Check
I said
the tape.
Sacramento.
Check the tape. Check the tape,
no,
editor.
Is
okay,
Sacramento
so she's
part of the Bay Area.
So she's wrong right now. Whoever's editing this, I want you to right now, when she said I never said that, just go ahead and slip that clip of her saying that right there. It'll be good.
He's fucking framing me. He's fucking
no,
framing
I'm
me.
not doing shit. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, he's fucking framing
So to
me.
answer, whoa, there's actually a sign on the building right there that says like no loud noises. So I don't know about that.
After 10 p.m.
Oh,
they
okay.
Can suck it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, but to answer your question, San Francisco definitely part of the Bay Area. Sacramento definitely not part of the Bay Area. So.
Why would I ask you about San Francisco when I
Why
know
did you?
clearly that you're from Sacramento?
Why did you then? Ask yourself the same questions.
I didn't ask you about San Francisco. I said, is Sacramento part of the Bay?
Just every time she repeats that falsehood, just play the clip. Just play the clip, please.
I'm fucking over this. So.
What about Davis?
He's from Davis.
Is Davis part of the Bay Area?
No, fuck no.
No?
It's a fucking college. And cows.
Well, UC Davis is the college.
Yeah.
I did a couple jobs for UC Davis. I did a couple jobs.
Congrats, it's too fucking far. Bart doesn't go out there, so I ain't out there.
All right, sure. Yeah. I did a when they had during the pandemic. They didn't want to have a big like physical thing for the Masters of Fine Arts students. Mm-hmm. I think there was a total of 12, and so me and some other filmmakers we shot and edited the video that was like the MFA commencement video. Mm-hmm. And so there was a bunch of different artists. There was a photographer. There was ceramic artists. There was a fabric sculptor, which I had never seen before.
Fabric sculptor?
Fabric sculptor, yeah. So she would basically imagine a fashion designer, but all the clothes that she makes, like you can't wear them. Like physically you can't wear them because one would like have like 2 sleeves on one side, but there'd be like no hole to put your head through and stuff like that. And so way that
it's just for like display kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the way that the MFA, at least at UC Davis, I don't know about other universities. I didn't go to UC Davis. I went to Sac State. Mm-hmm. Home of the Hornets, Stingers up. The way that it worked there is that they would basically spend their entire year working on like a portfolio, and then they would have that as a showing at the end of the year. And so she had all of her pieces. I believe her name was Ginevra, so shout out to her. She had all of her pieces hanging up in the room and stuff. And then there was the photographer. There was the ceramic dude. He wasn't a ceramic person. He made ceramics. So I made that. And I remember one part of it was the professors that were like in charge of their departments were kind of talking to camera saying like, it's been great to see you guys grow or whatever. And one of them was named Young Soo, and I just thought that was like a great rapper name.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
Young Soo.
So shout out to Professor Young Soo. I did another project with UC Davis that was about this dude that taught Mozart. That was a black composer in France in the 18th century that taught Mozart. And that was called the Chevalier Project, and that was really interesting. We worked with the UC Davis theater department, so that was another thing. And then, like maybe a year after we made that, I saw this freaking trailer come out that like Fox or like a major Hollywood studio made a movie about that dude, Saint George de Ne parlez-vous français? Saint George de Chevalier, and then that movie came and went. But so I worked for UC Davis before. That would be the University of California at Davis, for those of you listening and are like don't know what we're talking about.
So what got you into filmmaking?
Take a sip of water before I answer this really deep, contemplative question. What got me into filmmaking? Okay, so I was always into movies. I was always interested in movies and acting and stuff like that. I always liked movie trivia.
Wait, so you're an actor as well?
Yes, I've acted in 23 films actually.
Holy shit.
None of them you've ever heard of, I promise. But I was in high school theater. I was in musical theater, and they would always there was like this one family that had a bunch of kids, and they were Mormon, and they basically, with how far the kids were spread apart, for like 20 years, literally, they had one kid at the school at least. And so all the male leads for every High School Musical that was like when I was going there would always go to one of them, always go to one of those boys. So what they did was there was only 4 guys and there were like 23 girls, and they would combine all the male parts into one character. So for 3 out of 4 of the plays I was in high school, I played like 8 characters each.
Oh shit. Okay.
So that was definitely an experience. And I think in general, it's maybe a controversial opinion. Like I said, I've acted in 23 films. I think being a small part is way more fun than being a lead actor. Mm-hmm. It's like being a lead actor just sucks.
A lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of stuff that you can't control that people are still going to attach to you somehow. So if you act your ass off in the movie and it doesn't do well, then that's going to be attached to you. Whereas if you show up on set for a day and you have like 4 lines, like, okay, you showed up, you had 4 lines, you got your free sandwich token, then you were good. So I was interested in that stuff. And then when I graduated high school, I had a couple experiences with some filmmakers that I wasn't really too happy with. And so I was like, I'm going to take a hiatus, basically, from acting. And I went to community college. At the time, it was Sacramento City College, and I didn't have a license or a car, so I had to ride my bike about 5 miles to the nearest light rail station, which was the Meadowview light rail station, and then I had to get on the light rail, go to Sac City, and then get off, go to all my classes and stuff. And then the thing that kind of sucked about that was if I had like 4 or 5 hours between classes, I couldn't really do anything because I couldn't go home and then just immediately come back. So I would just spend a lot of time on campus. And anyways, I had an undeclared major for like 2 years because I originally was going to be a mechanical engineering student, but we can talk about that later. So I had an undeclared major for 2 years, and I had always been interested in movies and stuff like that, and I'd acted in all the musical theater in high school. And then I saw that there was a screenwriting class that fulfilled a requirement. And I was like, oh, I've always been interested, and I had read screenplays before, and I was like, oh, I've always been interested in this, like, I'll just take this class. And I took the class, and I don't think I'm a great writer, but a lot of the stuff that people were submitting I just thought wasn't great. And I was like, well, if they're like seriously pursuing this, then I could seriously pursue this. And so I then switched my major to film, and I started taking all the film classes. And then it took me a really long time to go from community college to Sac State, which is where I eventually transferred and got my bachelor's. There's 30,000 students at Sac State, and about 100 of them are film students. So it was a really small community, but definitely I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I went there. But I was studying to be a mechanical engineer for like a long time. When I was in elementary school and middle school and high school, I took like after school classes and stuff, and I was in all of the engineering classes. So they have like an engineering academy in my middle school and high school. So I took all those classes, and then when I was about to graduate, they were like, so, your math skills are not adequate to be able to pursue mechanical engineering seriously. And so then that's when I was like, oh, well, shit, what am I going to do? And then I went to college without a declared major for like 2 years. So, yeah.
So you suck at math, but...
Yeah, I suck at math.
You're a good actor. Sounds about right.
I don't know if I'm good, but I know that I've been in films. So, good enough, I guess.
How successful do you consider yourself?
How successful do I consider myself? Oh, jeez. I think I am way more successful than I ever thought that I would be, but not as successful as I want to be. You know?
What does more successful look, in your opinion?
If I could make my films and that was like my only source of income and just do that at all times, that to me would be successful. Or if I was editing, so I'm an editor primarily, and that's like my main goal is to be an editor. If I was editing feature-length films consistently, that would be successful to me.
What are you doing to pursue editing?
Okay, so I write and direct my own films because unfortunately people do not tend to give you their projects to edit with however you want. So I have to write and direct my own stuff so that I have something to edit. And the other part of that is that I really like experimental editing and like kind of, strange editing. And so right now I am almost done with editing a short film that I wrote and directed called Arrhythmia that's going to have a lot of experimental editing. And so my hope is that I get that film into some good festivals and people see it and they're like, this movie's crap. But the editing is really good, and then they hire me to edit their film.
But what makes your editing unique?
What makes my editing unique? So when it comes to experimental editing and stuff like that, I'm a really big fan of... I feel like... I want to use the term subjective editing. There are so many elements. When it comes to making a film, there are so many elements, right? Mm-hmm. There's cinematography, the lighting, the acting, the wardrobe, everything. And I feel like right now, the average moviegoer and the average person watching a movie can look at a movie and they can see the art design, they can see the acting, the wardrobe, all those elements be completely over the top, and they accept it as an artistic choice, and a valid artistic choice, and a valid piece of expression. But editing is the one thing where if you do something that is outside the norm or not expected, people always assume that it's a mistake, or they always just go, oh, it's bad editing. It's like, maybe they were trying to do something a little bit different. You know, it's like, if you watch the art and if you watch a Tim Burton movie and you see like the wardrobe and the crazy art that his films are known for, nobody's thinking like, well, that was a mistake. But when it comes to editing, people do think that. And I think that especially now with the modern audience and people having watched movies, you know, for so long, for over 100 years at this point, I think we can take more risks, and I think we can have edits that are a little bit, more cerebral and more based on kind of the state of mind of the character. I really like. So, I have one piece in my film where we're cutting back and forth between two characters who are sitting across from each other, and the edits get faster and faster. So it starts at like 1 second, which is 24 frames, then it goes to 23 frames, 22, blah, 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 until it's like 1 frame each, and it's cutting back and forth. So that would be an example of something that is like an experimental edit that I might like to do. Or just like, I also will use jump cuts sometimes. So there's a scene where somebody is leaving, and then the person is like sad that the person has left, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like they get up to leave, and then we jump cut, and they're just like sitting on the couch. It's like, do we really need to see the rest of the shot of them leaving, or can we just hear the door slam and we know that they're leaving? So a lot of the edits that I want to do, and the experimental edits that I want to do, are like, you know, taking out the part where we explicitly show the audience what is happening, and you can kind of infer what's happening. And I think that modern audiences are more attuned to that, and, you know, it makes sense.
Out of all the things in filmmaking, editing is one of those things that I don't know. You know, I don't know much about it. Like, I know it's tedious. I know it takes time. I know it's a lot of, like, you do it in a program, but I don't know what great editing is, honestly. I know if a movie sucks or if it doesn't, but I don't know if necessarily the editing, so that's my bad. It's really hard. Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of the times I'm just like, I'm confused with some of the short films I watch. And I'm like, is this how people feel about my films? Just confused.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah.
Yeah, like I said, whether something is good editing or not is like pretty subjective. And a lot of people say, and they say this about not just editing, but a lot of other elements of filmmaking. They're like, it's only good if you don't notice it. No, get that shit out of here. Shut up. Shut the hell up. Like, they're like, make it over the top, make it ridiculous, right? Like,
I have had my DPs and my editors fight about, you know, the reason the film sucks is the editor blames the DP and the DP blames the editor. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion that, like, subtleties for cowards.
And then they like to blame the writing. So it's just like this circle of, no, it's the DP, no, it's the editor, no, it's the director, no. It's like, okay, who do we blame here?
See, the thing is that you have to come together and make what you think is what you...
They don't want to, though. They don't want to.
Okay, well, I would then... Okay, my advice for you then is I would say, this is my project, and what I want the audience to feel right now is this. And then they should be working together to provide that for you, right?
That's ideally. That's ideal filmmaking. That's not what happens, though.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, no, you wrote it, you're producing it, you're the director, we're shooting it, we're done. Then I'm like, okay, how about the edit? Oh, they don't answer. Oh, we don't care. Oh, we're too busy.
Also, I would generally advise against having the DP watch the edit. You know,
well, they're the motherfuckers that shot it.
Yeah, but
why the fuck would you not want them to see their own work?
Because they're not watching it with the finished film in mind, which is what is in your brain, right? They don't know what's in your brain. So they are watching it in terms of more like, oh, I had this great shot, and I want to include that great shot that we spent a long time on setting up or whatever. And that doesn't translate necessarily to this is the best version of the film that it could possibly be, right? So, and if you I watch a lot of director's commentaries on my Blu-rays. If you are watching a movie with the director's commentary, like 95% of the time, they'll have at least one point in the movie where they're like, oh, the shot was longer, but we just couldn't include it because of timing. Or, oh, there was a really elaborate shot here, but we couldn't include it. And it's like, well, that's why. That's why you don't have your DP in there. And good DPs understand that. And DPs that work on, $100 million movies understand that even. But, yeah, they are basically... The reason that you shouldn't have a DP in the editing room is because they are trying to preserve their work, and they are not thinking about the effect that has on the finished product. So, yeah, I would advise against having your DP in the editing room.
Now, this is the golden question. Mm. Now, I was told by an actor that their job, when they're hired on to shoot a specific script that they're playing, that they have to read the script and like it. In other words, the actors have to be part of the script process. Is that correct, or is that false?
Well, I guess I would ask, could you elaborate a bit on that? What do they mean?
They're included in the script. You have to write... I guess you have to write with the actors there, kind of thing. Are they part of the writing process in any way, shape, or form? Is what I'm ultimately asking.
I would say no. I would say that is only applicable in a situation where this is a friend of yours who's an actor and you want to write something together, or if you're on one of the 48-hour film festivals or one of the 10-day film festivals or whatever. In Sacramento, there's one called the 10 by 10, which is make a 10-minute film in 10 days. Yeah, I would say that the actor shouldn't necessarily be involved in the script writing process, and I think that good actors will acknowledge that it's the same thing that I just talked about, where they don't have the finished product in mind. They're thinking about how they're gonna benefit from this, right? So they're thinking, and this is my problem with a lot of actors too, and this is the reason why I prefer being small roles also, is if you want to project a certain image, or if you want to look super hot all the time, don't be an actor. Because an actor should be more involved in their emotional availability. They should not have all those other things thinking in the back of their head. They should be thinking about, how can I be most vulnerable on camera, and how can my ability as an actor not, they shouldn't be thinking about how they're portrayed on screen, right? And if you look at actors that are world famous, AAA actors, a lot of them have insecurities, and a lot of them, they're oh, I don't like the way this looks. But you just have to kill that part of your brain. You just have to say, you don't have control over the situation. The camera on you, everything, all the lights and everything, you're going to get to a point, and some actors, when they're starting out don't realize this. There's going to be a point where something on screen is shown of you, whether it's your acting or something about your physicality that you don't approve of or that you're self-conscious about. If you can't handle that, then like don't be an actor. Like don't be an actor if you think for a second that you can't shrug off like your biggest insecurity. And I think that when you have actors who are open to that emotional vulnerability, then that's when you can really get like really, really good performances, is when they aren't consciously thinking about, here's what I want to be and blah, blah, blah. And when you're an actor and you want to be involved in script writing and can't think of any other reason other than that. And it might not be like, I look really good on camera. It might be like, this is my best acting. And I think personally, honestly, that's something that a lot of actors who become directors, where they're directing themselves in their own movies, I think they can fall victim to that pretty frequently. I think a good counterexample is Sling Blade, where Billy Bob Thornton, acted as the main character and also like wrote and directed the movie, but the character is like horrible, like a horrible person. And I think that it's few and far between that can work. I think generally speaking, actor, writer, directors are trying to make like vanity projects, and I think that actors should they don't necessarily have to be involved in the scriptwriting process. If that is like a separate thing that you want to do with them, then that's fine. But
I just wanted to clarify that they're not involved.
In
writing.
Yeah,
because
I would say that.
I was in an argument with an actor, and I told him, you stay in your lane, and you let me stay in my lane. I write, you act.
Everybody on a film set or any large piece of art in general should be aware of the fact that they are part of a machine. They are part of this bigger project, and they have to be willing to work as part of that. And they have to be able to recognize that they might not agree with 100% of the way that the film ends up, right? And I've worked on a ton of films as like every crew member you could possibly name, and that is how I feel about those projects. The only one where I have a little bit of control is when I'm directing it, right? And even then, that's an illusion. Right. There's still going to be a lot of stuff that I can't control that happens. But yeah, actors and any sort of crew members, just you're on the same team with everybody. You're all slowly moving towards the same goal, and you shouldn't be caught up about like, what if my contribution isn't what I want it to be? It's like, okay, it might not be, and you have to be able to accept that. And when you are a working person like in the industry, then those are the people that recognize that. It's like, it's like I met at the meeting the other day at the Mixer. There was a dude who worked as a gaffer on a bunch of films, like a bunch of Marvel movies and stuff like that. And it's like, I bet that guy doesn't go to the movie and isn't like, they didn't put my name first, like on the crew list. It's like, no, you're part of the team, and that team accomplishes something, but what you want to contribute might not be the best thing for the film.
Right. Yeah. It's really hard to deal with because we're very egotistic. I'm included in that. I have an ego. It's hard not to.
Yeah.
So, but
and there are times where you have to be like, especially if you're the director, you have to be like, this is what I want, and this is what we need to do. And there are also times as the director where two people have two differing solutions for a problem, and if I have time, I'm always just like, let's do both.
Right.
And I think then, luckily I'm editing this film, then when I get to that point, then I can make that decision. And then it'll be an editing decision. But yeah, it's complicated making movies. Very complicated.
Not more so the making, more so the BS that you encounter in the process of making.
I agree.
Yeah. The making is beautiful. It's the personalities, all the bullshit that you have to deal with. That's not so fun. Mm. But it's addictive, and the result's amazing, and you just search for that high.
Yeah.
You get it once, and then you fucking die trying to get it again.
So are you gonna be in my struggle meal documentary?
I can be.
What are you gonna make?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Depends on when you catch me.
All right. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure out something.
I'll be excited. That'll be my first ever project I'm ever involved in that isn't mine.
Oh, cool. All right.
So
yeah, for sure. So you can be a person number 3.
Sweet.
And then
honored.
I can get 30 is my goal. If I get to 30 and there's like a bunch more people that want to do it.
We have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 here.
Oh my god.
Maybe.
Whoa. Then I'll be up to 6.
And maybe
and that's
some
20%.
more. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's all about.
I'll just go talk to your neighbors and stuff.
Well, the Hall of Fame, I can contact.
I when I was walking over here, there's like a second floor balcony, and there was a woman leaving one of the apartments, and I was like, excuse me, where's building whatever?
F, yeah.
And I didn't want to say it for your audience.
Fuck!
Cut that. I was like, excuse me, where's building X? And she's like, I don't live here. I was like,
Then why are you here, bitch?
I was so upset. I was like, damn.
They're not helpful.
Yeah.
That's what I would have responded. Either that or silence.
So struggle meal.
Yeah.
Like a sandwich or something. That's what the first person made a sandwich. The second person made oatmeal. That's pretty cool. I'm also hoping, without me like suggesting it or pushing it, I'm hoping that we get a lot of repeats and a lot of stuff that happens like, over and over again, and then maybe.
I'm gonna be real.
Yeah.
And it won't be top ramen.
Okay.
And it won't be a sandwich.
Okay.
Or oatmeal. So.
All right.
Be ready.
Okay. I'm ready.
Ramen?
No.
I'm ready. I'm ready. And then that way, maybe if there's like 4 people who all do oatmeal, then maybe I could have like an oatmeal segment, and then I'll employ some of those editing techniques where I'm cutting back and forth between people to show all the different oatmeals that they make, And like I said, this isn't something that I'm actively working on in the sense that like I'm filming every weekend or anything like that. There's
just a passion project that you do here and there.
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of on the back burner. The one that I'm more focused on is Arrhythmia, which is my short horror film. And that one, I have to make a fake paper mache head and crush it. So I have to do that soon. I just got the first draft of the music, so I'm going to talk to the composer. Yeah.
Has it been shot or not yet?
It's been completely shot except for that one, the fake head. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Can you tell me a little bit about what it's...
Sure. So Arrhythmia is an experimental horror film about a young woman named Louisa who... is very risk averse because she has a heart condition that causes her basically to avoid anything that could raise her heartbeat that will potentially endanger her life. And so one day she's home alone and a dude is like breaks into the house basically. Well, he slides the door open and he comes right in. And so she has to deal with that. And her roommate is abducted by a cult at the same time. So.
What the fuck?
Her roommate's complete opposite. She's like a party girl. So
I think that's a lot happening in one time.
Well,
in the same fucking apartment or
house. It's 15
Jesus
minutes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Nazis? KKK?
Don't think any of those are in my movie.
Who kidnapped her?
I guess you'll have to see and find out.
Is it gonna be on YouTube or what?
So my plan is to submit it to a bunch of film festivals. It has to be under 15 minutes, so it's at 14:57 right now. Ooh. Because I want to submit it to Cannes. There's another one I found out about. I don't know if you get these, but sometimes I'll get emails like, "Hey, submit to our festival." Like, here's
I'm not that deep in festivals yet.
Okay, well, I got one for a film festival in France called Cabane à Sang, which is Blood Shack. So that's a horror festival. I might submit to that. And then, just to submit to a bunch of festivals, and then if it doesn't get into any, after probably crying for 14 days, I'll then put it on YouTube, I guess. But.
See, you can write about that.
Mm-hmm.
A struggling filmmaker that doesn't get into any film festivals.
But, like, every film is about a film, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to make a film about making a film.
This is your film about being a filmmaker.
Okay.
So you're the point of fucking view.
Whoa.
With a little bit of exaggeration and fucking like make believe.
I did
fucking God.
Speaking of point of view, I did my final film at Sac State. We spent the entire semester working on one film. So I was the director, and then there were like 4 other directors. And that film was about a young woman who has a job interview. Mm-hmm. And so she goes to wash her clothes because she doesn't have any clean clothes, and she gets locked in the laundry room of her apartment complex. And so she's trying to get out. So she's trying to get out the entire time. And there's no dialogue. So that
You mean no lines?
No dialogue until the very end. Yeah. I think she says "hey" at one point, and then at the very end, there's like one.
So this was silent. Her like trying to get the fuck out of this laundry room.
Yeah. So the door locks behind her, and yeah. So
I would have been like, "Fuck, shit, bitch."
Well, remember I said I have a lot of aunts. That was based on a true story where me and like 10 of my cousins got locked in a laundry room of my aunt's apartment complex, and we were in there for like a long time, and so it was like
no cell phone.
It was like well, this is before cell phones. So I'm sure they were around, but they were not common. So it was me and like my brother, and then like my 2 aunts and like all their kids, and so there was like 10 of us. And I don't know what my aunts were doing. They must have been like drinking mimosas or something, because it's just like nobody was coming. And then eventually there was like a guy walking by, and we're like, hey, and you know, in the Sacramento, it gets really hot in the summer, and so just, you know, heat blasting in, and there's 10 of us in this small room, and we eventually got the guy's attention, and then he talked to like the janitor or whoever, and then they came and they unlocked the door, and so I was like, how can I make this into a film that I could actually make? They say when you're making your first films, do you know the rules that they say? They say no kids, no animals, no fire. And so I was like, okay, how can I make this work? And then I was like, okay, what if it was just one person that was an adult? And then, oh, what if she had a job interview? That makes sense. She would need to wash her clothes for a job interview. So that was what I made my film about.
Is it out somewhere I can
It's
watch?
on my YouTube, sure. I can send it to you.
Okay, I
put in the clip now. I don't know if they put in the clipping because we're shooting live, but yeah, I can send that to you.
Yeah, sounds
It'd be pretty legit.
fun time.
Yeah.
Did that win any film festivals?
That was called Marina Does Her Laundry. No, it didn't win any film festivals. I think it just went to the one film festival that was like technically a film festival, but it was for Sac State. We were just out there recently. Where were you at?
At the Sac State graduation.
Oh, cool.
Film.
It was a film screening, but it was at some theater.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was at the Crest Theater, which was built in 1912.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I bet it was.
Okay. Yeah, there was some nice.
Because the semester that I went and that my film premiered at, that was the first semester that they had done it at the Crest.
Oh, nice.
So fun fact about the Crest Theater.
It's haunted.
Kind of. So there's like the big marquee that says Crest, right? So that that theater was built in 1912. And in like 1948, I'm gonna say, or somewhere around there, that marquee fell off and it killed somebody.
Oh shit!
And then it gave like permanent brain damage to another person.
Holy fuck.
So then they brought it back inside. They closed the theater for like a year and a half. They welded it on there, and they were like, "We welded it super good up there, guys." And then I guess it's fine because that hasn't fallen against then. Yeah. So shout out to the Crest Theater. They always do a lot of interesting screenings over there. But you know what's really funny is I had never gotten a film into a festival that I could go to until until my final film at Sac State, Marina Does Her Laundry. And I made a post about like, hey guys, my film is screening at the Crest, like at this time, everybody should come see it. And then somebody commented and they were like, no, it's at this other film festival, like at that time. And then I realized that I had 2 films get into 2 festivals.
Oh, nice.
On the same day. And I had never been able to go to one ever. And so they just happened to both get into 2 different festivals on the same day. And I was like, I have to go to the one that is my grade is dependent on, so I didn't go to that other one. Well, yeah, that was really funny. That was that other film was about. Have you had peach cobbler before?
Yes.
Okay, so I made a film about people who trying peach cobbler for the first time. I was just like, I was really in a place where I hadn't made a film for a long time, and I was like, man, I really need to make something. And at the time, I worked at a fast food place, and it was just like really slow a lot. And so I was like, just wiping the table down or something. I was like, oh man, I could really go for some peach cobbler right now. And my coworker was like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh man, like a big slice of peach cobbler, maybe some vanilla ice cream. And he's like, ooh, I have no idea what that is. He was like, I was like, you've never had peach cobbler? He's like, no. I was like, that's it. That'll be my next film. So then I found him and like 3 other people who had never had peach cobbler before. And I just made a short, simple,
fucking delicious,
simple 10-minute video about people trying peach cobbler on camera for the first time. So that was the other film that got into the other festival. It was pretty legit.
Fucking badass. Yeah. Okay, impressive, simple.
Yeah, maybe that's why I got. That's why I got inspired to do Struggle Meals. I just had a good time on that one.
Right. Yeah. Simplicity is key.
Exactly.
I see.
And food is universal.
Yeah, everybody has to eat.
Except for like Brussels sprouts, like disgusting.
Brussels sprouts are good.
No.
What the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Bitter.
Asparagus?
I like asparagus.
I would understand if you didn't, but Brussels sprouts? They're legit, bro.
Legitimately terrible.
Legitimately good.
No.
In my opinion.
Okay, well. Am I going to be on the food discussion podcast also?
I don't have one, foods? But I can make one up.
Oh, no. All right.
I can make one up.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Okay. We talked about film. Now you got to tell
film.
me
okay.
about your biggest struggle, either in life or in your career.
In life or in my career. My biggest struggle. Can this podcast be like 6 hours long or? Probably not.
We're almost at 1 hour.
Okay, so probably not 6 hours. My biggest struggle, I feel like a lot of people, so something that you'll hear a lot with any like celebrity is people will say like, oh, I had support. And I definitely don't think I've ever had support on my filmmaking and stuff. You know, people talk about like, oh, my dad bought me this camera, blah, blah, blah. My aunt who adopted me didn't really do anything like that, like ever. And so that was good in terms of giving me a lot of independence and being willing to venture out and do things alone. But it was bad in terms of I definitely feel like I had a step behind a lot of other people. And, you know, I went to high school in a higher income area than I lived because we were not honest about where we lived with the school district. And so what ended up happening is a lot of the people that I went to high school with were like in a much higher income bracket than me. And I was raised by a single mother and all that stuff. And so that was like, it was just a really weird experience where a lot of people had access to resources that they assumed I had access to, and I didn't have like any of them, you know? It's like, I people in my high school class literally who like their parents bought them a car for their 16th birthday. And it's like, nope, didn't happen to me. Didn't have any of that, you know? So my biggest struggle, I think, is just, I also think that a lot of people don't... Okay, my biggest struggle, that is probably also like a weakness, is that I am very like, I have a very high like work ethic, and I am what some would say like a workaholic. And so what that leads to is for me to have higher standards and higher expectations of people around me. And that can lead to some people saying like, well, you didn't say it, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I did it. So, and then there will be some times where I would never ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do. And I also feel like even still not going to that level, they still are like, it's more effort than I want to do. And that's really frustrating. And that's really annoying to me. So that would be a big struggle, is not being able to cope with other people's lack of a work ethic or...
Well, here, you see, I learned a lot. People work differently. Some people work with their hands. Some people work with their brains.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's work ethic is different. I know my camera people are weird. So work ethic is very subjective. It's very what I think is hardworking, you might not think is hardworking. Mm-hmm. And if you're at the top, you can't expect the people that are working for you, I wouldn't say below, because we're all equal, but to care as much as you do, because it's not fair. They don't have to care as much as you do, and to set the standards either. And it's because you were independent, because you didn't have it given like other people. And I definitely understand that. I feel a lot of similarities to you. But I got it in a place where I do have a big work ethic and I do have high standards, but I find myself constantly giving and giving and giving and giving, and all that people do is take. And it gets frustrating. And ask me why the fuck I keep going and keep doing it, because I love it. And so you're not alone, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I also I'm also that person where I'm like, hey, you worked on my film, let me work on your film, or can I do something, can I help you? And a lot of people are like, it's like, no, it's okay, like, it's fine. And it's like, but I do feel a lot of sense of accomplishment, and I do feel a lot of I do want to help people, and a lot of times I'm like, all right, let me help you, it makes me feel useful to work on stuff and to have tasks that are completed, and some people don't recognize that, and then it's like, oh, well, now I feel like I'm useless, and they didn't intend that. But it's kind of how it reflects on me. Other struggles. I really like... I like a lot of films where they use non-actors. Mm-hmm. And the way that they do that is that a lot of times the directors or the casting director will just go up to random people and be like, hey, do you want to be in my movie? I think if you watch American Honey, all the cast was like that, basically. And there's a lot of other movies that I really like where that was the case. And I just can't do that. I just don't know how to do that. I always feel like I make people uncomfortable, and I'm not able to just go up to people and be like, hey, let's do this thing, I would be a really bad recruiter for a cult, is what I'm saying, I would be really terrible at it.
Well, being on other people's films and projects, it's hard to get on because it's personal to them.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure they're selecting the right people. And it's just like, well, how are you going to ever get in the industry if you're never given an opportunity? So I like to cast people that people normally will sleep on, won't be casted. But I don't know. I feel like I have a higher calling in my life. And that's why I'm in the position that I am. But that's just me coping with my high expectations, I guess. Because I even offered to fucking be an executive producer. That just means tossing money at them. They didn't want it. They didn't want my help.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't force myself on other people's projects, so I'll just stay in my lane.
Another major struggle in my life is finding money to make movies. That is always a struggle. And I think when, not the most recent Oscars that just happened, but the one before that, one of the winners said, hey, don't make $400 million movies, make $4 million movies. And that's how I feel. I think that people, executives specifically, want to make these... They want to put $400 million into something and hope that they get a $2 billion movie back. They get $2 billion in box office. But really, just have, Jason Blum is doing fine. And A24 and Neon are doing fine. And those are all studios where they're just giving a little bit of money. A Blumhouse movie doesn't cost more than $5 million. And then when one of them does super well, then it pays for all the rest of them, right? And that's something that kind of frustrates me right now, is that, why can't we just have a ton of low-budget movies, right? Why can't we just have way more low-budget movies? instead of a couple like giant movies. And if anybody out there wants to give me money for my movie, then there you go. I'll give you a pitch deck tomorrow. Yeah. So the issue with finding money for films is another one.
It's always the issue.
But I'm hoping that or making it into some festivals, and I can go meet some people and find some financiers.
I would say help.
Help?
Find a way to help and stand out.
Yeah.
That's my challenge.
Like a big hat? Like
Whatever.
a big funny hat?
Whatever.
Like a Dr. Seuss hat.
It don't matter.
That would be my way of standing out.
As long as you're giving back.
And I'll wear one of those flowers that squirts you also.
That'd be cool.
That would be my
cool.
thing. And everybody
So I see you have a tattoo.
I do, yeah.
Is it real?
Is it real? Yeah, sure. You want to try and take it off of me?
Oh, and then I see another tattoo.
Yeah, I have that one also.
Okay. You want to tell me about them?
So tattooing was invented in ancient Polynesia around
How the fuck do you know all these fucking
years ago.
Weird facts, motherfucker? Are you
I
a robot?
I don't know if that part is true. I just said some stuff, but I do know that the word tattoo comes from Polynesian languages because there was like a British king who went and got a tattoo.
Same as a Prince Albert.
Whoa. But no, it's I'm not gonna say what it is because we're recording right now. But I will say it is Elvish from Lord of the Rings, and it is a specific word in Elvish, and I'm not gonna say it.
Is it bad?
No, it's not bad. It's just a secret.
Can you tell me off air?
Sure, it's
Off air.
Oh, okay.
Like cameras off.
I know, but I wanted you to fake react like I just told you, and it was amazing. So.
I'm not an actress.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Can't fake shit. Anyway, famous last words before we head out today?
Famous last words. Does that mean I'm gonna die when I step outside?
100%.
Let me see. I would say do more things. Do more things. Go outside more. Talk to people more. Go to more social events. Life is very short. You are not guaranteed your tomorrows. You're not guaranteed your tomorrows. So go out there and talk to people, work on stuff, make memories, you can regret things in the past, but you're only living right now. So if you are thinking about, oh, I want to do this thing, then just do it. And don't look forward to a nostalgia that makes you regretful.
With that said, where can they find you? Unless you don't want to be found.
I'm trying to think of my Instagram. I think it's ccaves6. Mm-hmm. That would be CAV.
ccaves6.
Yeah.
9425. Subscribe to him.
9425.
See you guys on the next episode. Thank you for watching.